Having seen Abe Faria Square, Mamai Kamath House, behind me you see a beautiful hotel, a very nice architectured hotel called as the Hotel Republica. Now this particular hotel is on a hillock that you see right behind over there, and this particular hillock is called as Bairro Alto Do Pillotos. Bairro means a ward, Alto means the top, and Pilot means the pilots. Now which pilots are these people talking about? Now you will know that the Portuguese came here in big ships, and for the ships to come inside here, they have to travel on a channel or a canal of water, and only those experienced pilots can bring the ship through these channels without it getting stuck. And those pilots who were here, who would bring in those ships from outside when they came from Portugal or any other place into the river Mandovi, these people were called as pilots, and these people who brought the ships inside here, they are the people who resided over here on this hill, and this hill hence was called as Bairro Alto Do Pillotos. To the east of the Secretariat, just like on the west side there is Abe Faria statue, on the east side is the statue that you see behind me, dedicated to the first Chief Minister of Goa, late Dayanand Bandodkar. Born on 12th of March 1911, he passed away on 12th of August 1973. He was the first democratically elected Chief Minister of the newly formed Union Territory of Goa, Daman and Diu. The elections were held in December 1963 and the government was installed in 1964. This gentleman was elected for 3 consecutive terms until in the 3rd term he died in office, and on that day his daughter, who was also a MLA, late Sterculia, she was sworn in as the Chief Minister. In the episode of Miramar, I have shown you his mausoleum and also the mausoleum of his wife and his son in Dona Paul. So this man changed the whole scenario of Goa. He was the most loved Chief Minister, and to honor him, the people and the government erected this statue to his memory. Every year they pay homage to him. This is the statue of late Dayanand Bandodkar, after whom the road in front of the Secretariat has been named as Dayanand Bandodkar Marg. We came to another lung of Panjim city that is more famously known as the Mermaid Garden. The reason is, in the middle of this garden there is a statue which represents a mermaid. I asked a lot of people around, elderly people, but they are not very sure when exactly this garden was made. But they guess that it is between 1945 to 1950. Earlier, this was just an open space. Now, to my right is the river Mandovi, where existed the navigation department. And on the landward side, you can see that house which says Loza Kamuti, that is the ancestral house of the Ghanekar family. Next to that is the present day Sessions Court, which earlier during the Portuguese era was the Quartel Militar or the headquarters of the military. But this particular garden got its name because of this statue. And this statue represents a mermaid, a female species of imaginary figment, which represents half fish and half lady. Sadly, this statue has become a victim of vandalism many a times, and an NGO a few years ago had redone this statue back again and removed almost 17 coats of paint that had been put on top. And now you can see the scales, you can see the fin, and you can see the lady. It creates a very picturesque area. Now they have put lawns. Lot of people come here because behind me is the court, and we have got the tourist hostel. And now after some time, the secretariat is, the old secretariat or the Adil Shah's palace is going to be made use of as an arts museum. And that time you will see that this lung of Panjim is going to be made use of by the people who are going to come over here. So it is because of this that the whole garden is called as the Mermaid Garden. So as we walk down from the secretariat and the Mermaid Garden, and we came to this place in front of the main post office or the GPO of Panjim, we actually arrived in the Tobacco Square. This whole area in front of this GPO is called as the Tobacco Square or Largo de Estanco. Why did they call this the Tobacco Square or Largo de Estanco? The reason was the building that you see behind me, which is now made into the main post office, was earlier used to store tobacco. Tobacco was one produce that was highly wanted in the West. So they used to store it here. This was like a godown, and because they stored tobacco over here, this area was called as Tobacco Square. But did you all also know that the police station, the Portuguese police station headquarters were in this building? Now what we will do in this Tobacco Square, there is another very important structure called as Casa da Moeda. There is a statue over here and there is a chapel. Besides, there is something which 90% of the people around don't even know about, is that there is a tree, and this tree has got amazing heritage. I am holding the fruit of that in my hand, and I will tell you what that is about. So now you see what was the godown of tobacco, a police station at one time, and today the GPO or the main post office of Panjim. That you see behind me, the very tall one growing very straight, is called as the Java olive tree. Java olive because its pods have got this little olive type structure, but which is very intoxicating. The botanical name of this is Sterculia Foetida, and if you look at this very carefully, the pod when it is opened out, does it not look like the hood of a female cobra. Hence, this tree is also called as the Nagin tree. And here, don't be scared. Psst. This is why this tree is called as the Nagin tree. Now, why am I telling you about this tree, which is growing straight over here and has got these pods? The reason is, just like every temple has got a banyan tree or a peepal tree in front of it, all the old churches that were constructed in Goa, when the foundations were being laid, this tree was planted next to the foundation. Now you'll ask me why. The reason is very simple. The churches had bells that were put right on top, either in a belfry or in the central facade. And here in Goa we have got very heavy monsoons and lightning and thunder. And thunder means the lightning falls, and metal attracted lightning. So, not to allow the lightning to damage the church and the bell, they would plant this tree which would grow straight up. A fine example of this is the one in front of the Holy Spirit Church. There is one in front of the Rashol Church. In Thivi there was one, but now it is not existing. In front of Bomb Jesus Basilica it is there, and the use of this was to act as a lightning conductor. So next time you see any old churches, look out for this tree. Or, just a suggestion, if you are constructing a colony, plant this type of tree, you will have natural lightning conductors. Free of cost, I won't even charge you for the suggestion. To the west of the main post office of Panjim, and just in the shade of the Java olive tree that I just told you about, there is a very cute chapel behind me which is dedicated to Saint Tome. Saint Thomas, one of the apostles, is also known as Doubting Thomas because he had doubted the resurrection of Jesus. This is what the Bible informs us. And this particular chapel over here and Saint Tome or Saint Thomas is the patron saint of masons. Now why I am telling you this is because this chapel was not here. It was actually facing the river next to a place where the old navigation department was. Today that navigation department has been broken down and they have put a jetty over there for boats. But it was exactly in front of the 31st January road. They shifted it here, and from then on the entire ward behind is called as Saint Tome ward. The people here are so enthusiastic that every year on the 13th of February the whole area goes into gaiety. So this, what you see here, is Saint Tome Chapel in the Saint Tome ward of Panaji city. Well, in times of demonetization, who would not like to talk about money? And that too, printing your money? Wow! Being in Panjim, you should be proud because in Panjim we had a mint, and that mint produced coins for the Portuguese government. Now we have come to Casa da Moeda, a place opposite the main post office of Panjim. in the residence, in the present residence of Dr. Luis Dias. He comes from a very illustrious family of the Dias, and we will also see another gentleman whose statue has been put up here. But before that, what we will do is we will just find out from Dr. Luis something about Casa Moed. Dr. Luis, welcome to my program My Goem on Prudent.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Luis, from what we heard, that this house was at one time the minting place, the mint house as they call it. Can you tell us something about this?
Yes. So as this plaque that you have just seen attests, this house, this building was once the mint, the Casa de Moeda, it was called. Casa means house, the of, and Moeda means money. The house of money from 1834 onwards. Now this plaque that you see here in the veranda, it was not at this place. Okay. It was actually on what is called the south side of the house, which is at 90 degrees to the other side.
On the João de Castro Marg.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the actual entrance of the house was on that side.
Yes.
And then I remember when we came back, my family and I came back from Germany in 1970, and my father got that stone removed and kept here because my neighbor's house was blocking it. Okay. So we had it put here.
Okay.
So the mint, as I understand it, was actually very much like houses you have in Venice, similar to the Solar de Sculasas in Ribandar.
Yes.
Which had a river entrance and a land entrance.
Oh yes, Solar Colasso.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So the land entrance was here and the river was much closer.
Okay.
So it is my guess, there is no document that actually says it in so many words, but it is my guess that a lot of the coins that were minted were actually transported by river.
Okay.
It would make a lot more sense and this house, if I am not mistaken, this building is the only standing overseas Portuguese mint in the world.
Wow. This is something that you must know. The only existing standing mint overseas of the Portuguese. So for how long was it there?
So 1834 it was established.
Yes.
And 1841, 42, it seems to have gone out of here.
Okay.
Yeah. So whether one theory has it that it went back to the old city.
Okay.
Another theory has that it went for the time being to some other part of Panjim. I'm not very sure where, but yes. I think it probably went back to Old Goa.
Yes.
And then, of course, it became irrelevant because with the Anglo-Portuguese treaty of the 1870s, the currency of Portuguese Goa got outsourced to British India.
Okay, so in other words, if I can safely say that the money of the Portuguese, the currency of the Portuguese, that is one country, was being printed by another country.
Printed, Again, one has got to read between the lines of history. What I think the Portuguese did not do is not bring the technology of the modern technology with minting of coins.
Okay.
The coin press, as far as I can understand, never quite came here.
Okay.
It was still the old-fashioned hammer and die, where you have the reverse image of a coin on one on the chap
mold,
and on the other side you have the obverse image, and then you just basically have a sheet of metal which is semi-heated. You bang it, you cut around it, and you have your coin.
So it was manually cut.
Manually carved, yeah.
Okay.
So, and you can immediately see, if you see examples of the coins, actually when we can go downstairs and I can show you examples, you will see that once it goes to British India, the quality of the coin improves remarkably.
Ladies and gentlemen, here at this point, I must inform something to you. Many of us love the heritage, but a few of us take care of the heritage. And this gentleman who is standing here besides me, Dr. Luis Dias, he does not only maintain this house in its ship-shape condition, but also has instituted a music festival called as the Casa de Moed Festival. He also displays panels of the coins that were minted here. So next time you hear about this Casa de Moed Festival, I am going to ask him to invite all of you all to come over here.
Yeah, thank you. So that actually is my wife's initiative. The Casa, it's not only a music festival; it's a festival basically of the arts. And it is something that we began in fact, 2009, which was the 175th anniversary of the mint.
Yes.
In fact, we opened every festival in that garden around the statue with a band, with a brass band, our traditional Goan brass band. And it's a family-run festival, and it struggles to keep going. So we would like to bring it back into circulation, but we need help and support.
Let us assure our support. My Goem and Prudent assures our support to Dr. Louis. Your presence is needed. So let's bid goodbye to Dr. Louis and go into the square which he has pointed out, where stands the bust of Dr. Miguel C. I'll tell you something more over there.
So as you can see, these panels here were the panels we had prepared for at the time of the first festival. So this is sadly the only picture that I have of the house, which is dating from 1936. This is a picture of the post office square. It was that time. It was called many things. It was called Largo de Estanco, which was the tobacco square. At one point, it was called Largo de Bartolomeu Dias, after the explorer. And it was also called, after my great grandfather, Largo de Miguel C.
Okay.
But over here, you had the telegraph pole. So this proved, this attests the fact that this was once the telegraph, the house, the Casa de Moeda, was once the telegraph office as well.
Okay.
So logically this became later on posts and telegraphs. But it at one point was also in this house, in this building.
Okay.
So these are pictures of the square. First, as you can see, there was no statue here at the time of his funeral.
Yes.
And 2 months later, it was brought from what is Escola de Medica.
That is Goan Medical College.
Old Goan Medical. And today's Inox here. And then it was instituted here. And then I prepared a presentation of the coin. Now this was a coin that was actually minted in this house in 1840. Okay. And then just to give you an idea of the quality, I've shown you coins from the Goa State Museum, from other places. So there's the Calcutta Mint. This I got from the net.
So these were all printed for the Portuguese.
Yeah. So these are coins from. So this is now from the Bombay Mint in 1882. So you can see the quality has improved remarkably.
Okay.
And just to give you an example of coins from other parts of the world around the same time, this was from Mysore, Great Britain, Mozambique. These are actually from the Goa State Museum. Okay. And then in 2009, I made a special visit to Lisbon to meet the people from the Casa de Moeda, Lisboa. And they presented me, a catalogue of coins that were minted all through the Indo-Portuguese history. And I have showcased here some coins that must have been minted in this building, which, I don't have the actual physical sample.
They are from that particular era.
Yeah. And they say quite clearly, from Goa. Okay. So Casa de Moeda, Goa, 1834 to 1842 would have been minted in this house.
Okay.
Yeah. What used to happen was when ships came to the docks, you needed to have something called ballast to balance too. Yes. So when it crashed against the docks, the ship would not get damaged. Today we use rubber tires and things like that, but in those days they would have sacks filled with waste. So they would actually put cheap porcelain, which was considered to be not worth anything, and it would smash and be thrown away. But people would take that and use that to make mosaics. Okay. So all over Goa you have this, and this particular one this was laid by my great grandfather himself. Miguel C himself laid this. So that's why, and he put the dates there. 1834 is the day of the date of the mint, and 1904 is the year he bought the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just outside the Casa de Moeda, in a small cute garden over here, under a fig tree, we see a beautiful statue, a bust, and the name written there is Dr. MC Dias. He comes from the same family like Dr. Louis. So again, let's trouble Dr. Louis to ask a little bit more about this gentleman. Louis Bob?
Yeah, so he happens to be my great grandfather. And he's a Zuenkar. We come from the island of Sanjeev, Zuen, or Jua. And and we actually had a family, we are descended from a family that once was very famous for its vende, for the okra. And he had this ambition to be a doctor, which was quite an unusual, quite a lofty ambition to have at that time. And we have in our family oral tradition lots of stories of the sacrifices that were made by his family to put him through medical school and to send him to Lisbon, where he distinguished himself. He had no money to buy the textbooks, so he copied them by hand. And we still have those books in the house. Okay. Anyway, so he did his exams with flying colors and was sent by the Portuguese to Mozambique, where again he distinguished himself, at a time when there were no antibiotics, blood transfusions or anesthesia. He did some heroic surgery, like amputations in the field and things like that. And in 1888, he was sent by the Portuguese government back to his native state, where eventually he rose to be the Dean of the Medical College and the Director of Health Services. And the reason that you see a whole clutch of medals on his breast is because he was instrumental in eradicating the bubonic plague, which struck South Goa in 1908 and North Goa in 1910. So he and his team were responsible in eradicating that. And there's a citation from Dona Amelia, the Queen of Portugal at that time. He also has the distinction of having performed the first appendicectomy in Goa, where the patient lived. Okay. So we have to remember that in those days, when you had, when antisepsis and things were in their infancy, people would die of a simple operation like an appendicectomy. And and he was the first president of the Câmara Municipal. So for all of these reasons, he had a statue put up to him in his lifetime. So if I'm not mistaken, he might be the only native to have a statue put up to him by a colonial power while he was still living. And that statue stood in the Escola Medica in
the old Goa Medical College.
Yeah, old Goa Medical College.
Okay.
And in 1936, 2 months after, he died in July 1936, and 2 months later, with great pomp and ceremony, the statue was installed here. Ever since 1936, it has remained here.
Okay. Now we have heard so much of history about Dr. Miguel Diaz from his great grandson, Dr. Luis Diaz. But I am going to add one more piece of it which he has not said. Dr. Miguel Diaz was the only Goan. No other person was given that, but the general's rank in the Portuguese army was granted to Dr. Diaz. What a big achievement. Try getting one yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you, Luis Baptiste. Thank you so much.
Yeah.